It is hard to believe that it is almost August and SummerSlam is almost here. It feels like just yesterday we were doing this exact same thing for WrestleMania, but yet SummerSlam is here. And if there's any doubt in your mind that WWE ranks SummerSlam as their number 2 PLE, only right behind WrestleMania, point only to the fact that we get 2 nights of SummerSlam, just like we get 2 nights of WrestleMania. And so we are going to take a look at all the matches. And this is not just a prediction show. This is going to be your complete guide to SummerSlam. While I'll talk about predictions, I'll also talk about any other twists or turns and storylines I think will happen, as well as any debuts or returns that I could potentially see, and any other information surrounding this 2-night event. So take this ride with me as we look at SummerSlam. And this is Wrestling Brother's Guide to SummerSlam. All right, well, if this is your first time joining me on this channel, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you can get updated each and every time I drop new content. Also, connect with me on socials. It's Wrestling Brother on TikTok. I am Wrestling Brother on Instagram, Wrestling Brother on Facebook, and pretty much Wrestling Brother. If you just go and type in Wrestling Brother, you should be able to find me. If you are in the Houston area, in and around the Houston area, make sure you swing by Pitch 25 this Saturday and Sunday, as I'll be with the Apollo Houston team, giving the best party in Houston for SummerSlam for both nights. That's Pitch 25 in Houston, both Saturday and Sunday. Be there with the Apollo Houston team, again, delivering one of the best, if not the best, wrestling party in the city at Pitch 25 this weekend. So check it out. All right. So this coming weekend, SummerSlam will be a 2-night event held this year in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in US Bank Stadium. Now, going in, the ticket sales have not been great. That's, one of the biggest things. So the current setup for the stadium, now the US Bank Stadium is where the Minnesota Vikings play. Football stadiums hold 70,000 plus. WWE has not sold 70,000 tickets for 2 nights. The current setup, the way they have it set up in terms of seating, the capacity is around 32,000 because they know that is about as much as they're going to get. I guarantee you, going in, they did not think that they would only be accommodating about 32,000 people a night. And to even get to the 32,000 has been a stretch. They have had to run promos with tickets as low as $25 to get people in the building. Yes, $25 to get into SummerSlam. I was actually looking at some tickets online last week around Tuesday, Wednesday. There were floor seats available, not the premium ringside seats, but floor seats available for about $129, and you are on the floor for the second biggest PLE of the year. There were tickets just a tier higher. I believe you're like in the 100 section where you could get in for about $76. So, and I support those ticket prices first and foremost. I'm not saying that, I'm dogging it, but based on how much they had been charging for these premium live events to now where they're having to be is very indicative of where the product is right now. And now they just want to do whatever it takes to get as many of those 32,000 seats filled to make it make sense for nights 1 and nights 2 of SummerSlam. But really and truly, these stadium shows make no sense if you're not going to get 50,000 plus in there each night. 32,000 is, it's a cool number and all, but when you're talking about a football stadium that houses a 100-yard football field, and now you're going to have to only get 32,000 people in there with this little 20 by 20 ring. It's, again, very indicative of where the product is. I personally think they should go, if they must go the 2-night route, just go back to basketball stadiums. Go back to basketball stadiums. You can charge a little bit more, but if you get into a big basketball arena, you can get about 18,000 in there each night. You can charge a bit more. The crowd will sound crazy in an arena. So it'll be a much better experience for your TV audience with that crazy crowd. But sometimes those stadium crowds, you can't really get the feel of it, especially if you have a big old 70,000 stadium and you've only got 32,000 in there. How loud, like, how is that going to sound, coming across versus being in that tight arena? Just, and I feel that they're married to this idea of 2-night events for SummerSlam and for WrestleMania. And, when we get into this card, you can honestly, this could be a 1-night event, 4 hours and trim off some of the fat of this card. The card is not terrible. Let's start there. The card isn't terrible, but there's definitely some things that could be trimmed very easily. Having said that, let's get into the match card. Let's just start off at the top. Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk for the WWE Undisputed Championship. The road to get here was one of the, this was the match that they wanted to have, especially as ticket sales were not where they wanted them to be. I guarantee you, if these ticket sales were north of 50K each night, which we knew they wouldn't have been, I guarantee you we might not be getting Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk. What they got here, after CM Punk returns, we hadn't seen CM Punk since WrestleMania, the night after WrestleMania actually, and he actually crossed paths with Cody Rhodes, and he says, hey, you never know when a title opportunity will just fall out of the sky. When did the opportunity fall out of the sky? 9 days after Sami Zayn defeated Cody Rhodes and Gunther in a triple threat match. That's when it fell out of the sky, on Monday Night Raw. Yes, the SmackDown Championship, which is the undisputed WWE Championship, was defended on Monday Night Raw to get that belt up off of Sami Zayn after only 9 days. And that's what got us here. And instead of, having a number one contendership to determine who's next, when you still got Sami Zayn, who was just defeated, Gunther, who was just defeated, which we know that he was on this path to end up in the match with Nick Aldis, which is what we're going to get, and we'll get into that later. And then you had CM Punk list off all these people that he loved to mix it up with. And instead of mixing it up with those people, Cody Rhodes comes out and they cut a promo with each other, and they talk about how this is a match that, maybe being avoided because of their friendship and all of this, just as boring of a build as you can get for a match between two of the absolute best professional wrestlers in the world. And that's how they got there. Now, there have been some developments. Now they're kind of being a little more shady towards each other. At Saturday night's main event, we saw CM Punk accidentally hit Cody Rhodes in the face with the flap of his strap, the championship belt. That's kind of been a thing. Now this weekend, they are on the house show circuit. They're tag teaming in different cities. There was a clip that I saw not too long ago where they were bickering in the middle of the ring in each other's face, and Danhausen comes out in his bathrobe and with his head wrapped up with a towel, and he gets in between them and kind of makes peace. So they're building on that. Friday night, they had a promo where they respect each other, they love each other, but they don't like each other all of a sudden, and all that. And that's what's led us to this point. My gut tells me CM Punk has to retain here. I would not put it past WWE to put the belt back on Cody, but Cody turns heel. And that's the only way this belt should be going back to Cody Rhodes, is if he's going to be a heel. Now, I don't think he has to go heel to win the championship. I think he can lose and then turn heel at the end of the match and beat CM Punk down into the ground. And that's how we go off the air for night one, because this is going to be your night one main event. But overall, I'm going to pick CM Punk to retain. Next, we got the Raw side of things with the World Heavyweight Championship match between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Again, another match that we got to the silliest way possible. Seth Rollins was in a King of the Ring qualifying match, which he lost after Braun Breaker came in and speared him out of his pants. Obafemi actually won King of the Ring, but Obafemi decides that it's more important to finish his business with Brock Lesnar than to actually go and have a championship match at SummerSlam, which was the entire point of having a King of the Ring tournament. So make it make sense, because it doesn't. We could have had Seth Rollins just win the matchup or win the tournament and move on and do it that way and make it make sense and not dumb down what King of the Ring was built around this year. Now, we know Roman Reigns and Cody and Seth Rollins have a very storied history. Dating back, they debuted in WWE alongside Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose as The Shield. Of course, a few years later, Seth Rollins helps dismantle The Shield when he puts a chair in the back of Roman Reigns, which has set that whole thing apart and honestly put both Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins in elevated positions in the company. We know that Roman Reigns was headlining WrestleMania 30 with Brock Lesnar, and the Heist of the Century happened. And of course, that's when Seth Rollins won his first WWE Championship when he hijacked the match, the WrestleMania's main event with Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. So they have a storied history. In recent memory, there have been matches. I believe there was a match between him and Roman during the first iteration of the Bloodline. I believe it was at Royal Rumble. It ended in disqualification. But Roman really doesn't have a monumental victory over Seth Rollins. Normally when those two are on a PLE stage, somehow, some way, Seth Rollins gets the win, or at least doesn't take the pinfall to Roman Reigns. It either ends in disqualification or no contest or what have you. But now we are going to probably get a definitive winner. And this time, Roman Reigns is going to get that defining win over Seth Rollins. So my prediction is that Roman Reigns will defeat Seth Rollins and become, well, he's already the champion, but to retain the championship and move on to another program. Now, do I see anything potentially happening here? Well, we saw Solo Sikoa plant seeds with Seth Rollins saying, hey, I know how the bloodline rolls. This is not going to be one-on-one. I can have your back here. That seed was planted for a reason. So this match is going to have some sort of interference or something that's going to transpire. I could totally see this being a good moment for Zilla Fatu to maybe enter the fray, even though I believe Zilla might be better suited for NXT for a year. NXT could desperately use the help, but because in my opinion, you can have him on NXT and still bring him in for War Games if you want the bloodline to have another guy, and then still send him back. He's still a part of the family, and it'd be a great opportunity to, one, have him work with those guys in NXT, because again, they need that star power. I believe Zilla Fatu can bring the ratings back to NXT and give Tony D'Angelo and Mike Santana some more people to work with and to elevate that brand. Then you bring him in for War Games, and now you see, hey, how does Zilla Fatu look in the ring with some of the best in the business? Against LA Knight, against Seth Rollins, how does that look in that War Games match? But then there is this little possibility, because they love doing this at SummerSlam. They love having the main event end, and then after the main event's over, they love to have that person come out afterwards. They love having the Brock Lesnar moment like we had last year, right? Could that be a Rock moment? Setting up Roman versus Rock at WrestleMania? Just some food for thought. Moana flopped. WWE's flopping right now. So the perfect thing to fill both of those voids, let The Rock come out and have that ego stroking moment at WrestleMania, at SummerSlam, setting up him and Roman for Saudi Mania. All right. So we got Io Sky versus Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship. Liv Morgan has been on there talking about she's the greatest women's world champion of all time. Yet she has not defended this championship at all. The only time we've seen her in action is in the Queen of the Ring tournament, which she made it to the finals and decided to have a bickering session with Danhausen right before the match, got herself cursed. So then she lost that matchup to Io Sky, and Io Sky immediately challenges her for the women's championship at SummerSlam. So we're getting that match. That's the build for the match. There's literally nothing else to say about it. Io Sky is going to win this match with hopes that Rhea Ripley is going to be well enough for Crown Jewel whenever that is, so that those two can deliver another banger, and maybe this time Rhea Ripley finally gets that elusive victory over Io Sky when there's actually no title on the line other than the Crown Jewel Championship. Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar in Hell in a Cell. We haven't seen a Hell in a Cell match since Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. And oh, buddy, that was a classic. These two, I believe, can deliver as well. These are two beasts, two professionals that know what to do and how to do it. This cannot be a 5-minute match. This match has to go 12 to 15 minutes to truly warrant having it in a cell. They are talking about how Brock Lesnar is undefeated in Hell in a Cell. He's only had 2 Hell in a Cell matches. Both of them were with Undertaker. Now, that's no small feat, right? To beat Undertaker twice in a structure that he made famous, but he's only 2-0. And Brock Lesnar seems to have the Undertaker's number. So it is what it is. But I fully expect that Obafemi goes over. This story, of course, they had the match. So Oba eliminated Brock Lesnar no, he did not eliminate. I think Brock Lesnar eliminated Obafemi from the Royal Rumble, and then Brock Lesnar got tossed out by like LA Knight and somebody else. They started this Obafemi challenge, I believe it was, and I think Brock's accepted the challenge. If I'm probably butchering it because so many weird things have happened. Ultimately, they had a match at WrestleMania. The match at WrestleMania really put Obafemi over strong. He beat Brock Lesnar in like under 5 minutes. So that was kind of, the big thing was, I think that's actually when the Oba challenge started, was after that, because they had nothing else for him. And that's when I'm like, okay, he's beaten Brock Lesnar. What else are you going to do with him? And that's why I'm like, these Oba challenges have to make sense. I think they put him in there with Otis, and then they started just throwing Garza and all these random people at him. And I'm like, this is where you call up Omos. This is where you bring in Sheamus. You feed him people that are reputable, that can afford a loss from a guy like Obafemi. We thought Brock Lesnar retired at Mania. He left his gloves and he had, the big hugging moment with Paul Heyman. Well, he returns and ambushes Obafemi from behind and cementing that he is back. And then he challenges him for a match at whatever that next PLE was. And they had a match, and now we're tied. We're 1-1. And so you got to have a rubber match. But in the meantime, Obafemi is now in the King of the Ring tournament. Obafemi was the odds-on favorite going in to win the King of the Ring tournament. And every time he had a match, everybody's expecting that Brock Lesnar is going to come and interfere, which made absolutely no sense because Brock Lesnar has already gotten his win back. Well, Oba continues to talk mess about Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar gets wind. He shows up and he says, hey, I don't watch the show, but my advocate tells me that you've been talking shit, and you know what they say, you talk shit, get hit. There you have it. Oba wins King of the Ring. Because of this whole thing, he says, hey, I'm challenging you to a match at SummerSlam. And Brock Lesnar's like, I'll one-up you. And he goes, we'll go in Hell in a Cell. The rest is kind of history. So we're getting Oba versus Brock in Hell in a Cell. Obafemi has to win this matchup. And hopefully this is where we finally get a true proper retirement from Brock Lesnar, and we can get him in the Hall of Fame next year. Nick Aldis versus Gunther. Now, they have teased Nick Aldis potentially returning to the ring a couple of different times. You saw bickering between him and Drew McIntyre, which you thought might turn into something. And of course, we saw repeatedly things between him and Randy Orton. And so then when you see this stuff with him and Gunther, it's kind of like, how many times have we seen this? He probably is not going to wrestle. And lo and behold, he's going to wrestle. It is official. They made it official at Fanatics Fest that Gunther and Nick Aldis will compete. And then we saw on SmackDown, Adam Pearce making it official, saying that, hey, since you're going to compete in the ring, you're temporarily kind of stripped of your GM duties, and you are to compete in this match. Just know that when you're able to compete, all bets are off. So you're not a GM. So that means that you can put hands on Gunther and Gunther can put hands on you. And that's what happened. This is going to be a good match, I believe. Nick Aldis may have a little ring rust, but from what I remember with Nick Aldis, I mean, he's a true professional. I think this match is going to be one of the sleepers for like match of the nights. Whatever night it is, I believe it's going to be a contender for match of the night. I think you're going to see two absolute professionals get it on. They have a lot of heat on this match, so the way that this match should be laid out should be very intense. And of course, Gunther has to win. You can't have him retire Cena, retire Goldberg, retire AJ Styles, and then lose to a guy that hasn't wrestled in over 3 years. So Gunther is going to pick up that win. We have a ladder match for the interim undisputed women's championship that Rhea Ripley is the actual champion for. So this is just a placeholder until Rhea Ripley is well enough to return. Right now, we have Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill, Charlotte Flair, Chelsea Green, and one woman to still be announced. There's one more qualifying match that we will determine who that last entrant will be. I think this match is going to be, it's going to be good. It's a ladder match. You've got, a lot of talented women in there. I think the odds-on favorite would be Jade Cargill or maybe Charlotte Flair. But being that it's a ladder match, it protects everyone. I'm going to make a bold prediction. Chelsea Green is going to win the interim women's championship. That is the right call. One, it's interim, right? So it kind of keeps everything on the up and up. But it gives Chelsea Green that nod at being a top women's champion and seeing what she can do with it. It truly teases and elevates her instantly. Chelsea Green needs to win this matchup. Penta versus Chad Gable. This is a no-brainer. Not a whole lot of build-up here. Chad Gable won a six-pack challenge. No, gauntlet match. He won a gauntlet match a couple weeks ago on Raw to advance, and it's going to be him and Penta. The major overarching thing is that he's never won a singles championship in WWE. So it's time to make that happen. And what better place to happen than in his hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. U.S. Championship. Trick Williams versus Baron Corbin. So just so fuck Mello, huh? Just fuck Mello. Like yeah, I mean, we can't get Mello on a PLE to save his freaking life. He missed Mania. He's gonna miss SummerSlam unless they throw a last minute curveball to get him in that match and make it a triple threat. The absolute right thing to do would have been to save Trick and Mello for SummerSlam. But Baron Corbin, just 2-3 weeks returning to WWE, gets a PLE, and I'm not mad at it. Baron Corbin, I think it's going to be a great match. I think it's a good look for Trick Williams to be in there with a savvy veteran like that. Mello. What are we going to do with Mello? Sammy's been wearing Justice for Sammy shirts. Where is Justice for Mello? Mello is arguably the best in-ring worker on the roster. I'm saying arguably. There's a lot of good workers, but he's in that conversation. He is definitely in that conversation. He's decent on the mic. He looks great. There's no reason for the treatment he's getting. He deserves better. Let's get Mello on a PLE. He's the one that held down the U.S. Championship for weeks on end, having the best match on the entire show. The entire week of WWE programming outside of PLE work, normally the best match had Carmelo Hayes. He deserves better. I'm going to leave it at that. Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn. I kind of called this a few weeks ago. When Sami lost the belt, I said he's either going to end up in a match with Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano's going to snap out of it and that's a damn shame. And I said on the high end, he'll get a match with Finn Balor. So he gets the match with Finn Balor. This match is set up because he lost the belt 9 days after winning it on Monday Night Raw when he's a SmackDown guy, won the SmackDown Championship, and he lost to CM Punk, who we hadn't seen. So he has been vocal about that injustice. This is Adam Pearce saying, hey, this is the best I can do for you because I can't add you to this match anymore. He had his spot secured for this #1 contenders match. And then on Friday Night SmackDown, we had a fatal 4-way match to determine the person that would take him on. It's Finn Balor, Trick Williams, Damian Priest, and Royce Keys. And Finn Balor picked up the win, so he's no longer Finn Balor. He is in the mix. So we'll see what happens. Sami Zayn's going to win that match and punch his ticket to face CM Punk somewhere down the road. We got the Bloodline versus the Anti-Bloodline. So it's going to be Jacob Fatu and the Usos taking on Solo Sikoa, LA Knight, and the aforementioned Royce Keys. I really think the Anti-Bloodline has to win here to keep this storyline going. So I would predict that LA Knight probably gets the pinfall victory over Jimmy Uso. Continuing this on, I think we're going to continue this story on into Survivor Series War Games, which will be here in H-Town. And that's where we'll get the conclusion of that when Solo probably returns to the Bloodline. We got Paige and the Bellas versus Fatal Influence. I predict that Fatal Influence will get the win, and I also predict that there'll be tension between the Bellas and Paige, and hopefully this gets Paige away from the Bellas and out of this and into a proper women's singles feud or something with someone else. There's plenty of things that Paige could be doing outside of this foolishness. And then finally, we've got Dominic Mysterio versus Danhausen. We got justice for Sammy. We got justice for Mello. I need justice for Dom. Earlier this year, I was thinking, man, Dom in the next year and a half could really be in contention for a top title. Don't think that's going to happen. I saw just last night he's joined forces with Omos and AAA, and he's still doing this, and now he's getting a comedy match with Danhausen, which this match should have happened at Saturday night's main event. This is the match that should have happened at Saturday night's main event and gotten it over with instead of us getting the Danhausen JD McDonough match. This could have been a proper JD versus or Dom versus Danhausen. Danhausen has to win here. I don't see them pinning Danhausen at SummerSlam. They're really big on Danhausen. You can easily play on the Dominic Mysterio is cursed whole angle and go that direction to protect Dom, if you will, in defeat. That's the card. That is the card. Again, is it a bad card? No. Could it be better? Absolutely. These lazy 6-person matches could be something else. Dom versus Danhausen doesn't need to be there. I don't even know if Paige and Brie Bella and Nikki Bella versus Fatal Influence needs to be there. And if we were trying to make this a one-night card, I could knock off a ton of these matches. Dom versus Danhausen, Paige and the Bellas versus Fatal Influence, Bloodline versus Anti-Bloodline could go. Penta and Chad Gable honestly could go. Everything else needs to stay. But I could knock those off. And you have a 4-hour, one-night card. Maybe you sell more tickets to US Bank Stadium if you just make it a one-night card, make it tight, make every match important. We used to get pay-per-views in, I would say, most of the time, whenever WWE's on pay-per-views were blocked for 3 hours, but normally you were done with the pay-per-view at the 2-hour and 45-minute mark. And you used to get 7 matches, 7 to 8 matches. Not all of them went, most of them didn't go, but your main event went about 20 to 25 minutes, and every other match went under 20 minutes. You can make it happen. Some of these matches just need to be 10 to 12 minutes. But we've got to have ad breaks now, right? So everything's about ad breaks. When everything was on pay-per-view, no, it was boom, boom, boom. You come out high. And some of the stuff that they do to even open the show, like you don't need to do. How many times do we need to see Fatal Influence rolling their fucking luggage into the stadium and oh, CM Punk has just arrived and he's got his fucking dog with him and who, like, do we really need to see that? Like all these little things that take up unnecessary time, do we need to see it? Absolutely not. Because again, we used to get 7 to 8 matches on a 2 hour and 45 minute show. And now 4 to 5 matches on a 3 hour show. And I just don't get it. I do get it, but I don't get it. It makes no sense. We've literally made something that worked and somehow made it worse. And now more than ever, you need to get more people on these PLEs. More than ever. But what do I know? Wait, this coming weekend, we have SummerSlam. It's a 2-night event. The first hour will be airing on ESPN. So whether you have the ESPN Unlimited app or not, you can catch that first hour on ESPN. We don't know what matches are going to be on what nights as of the recording of this, and we don't know what matches they're going to put on ESPN. I would imagine that the Gunther Nick Aldis match would be a great match to put on ESPN. I think the ladder match between the 5 women's competitors for the interim championship, I think that's a great match to put on there. I would not be surprised if they don't want to put Danhausen on the ESPN since he has goodwill with the sports world because of the New York Knicks. But I think that would be a mistake. I think when you're on ESPN, you want to put stars on there to make you kind of want to see what else is to come. Another match I would probably put on there is the Brock Lesnar Oba Femi match because, again, you have that sports presentation that it'll feel like with someone like Brock Lesnar, who is a former UFC competitor. I think that makes total sense to be on ESPN as well. And that's SummerSlam. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this card. If you think I nailed it, if you think I totally got it wrong, if I got it twisted, I've been wrong before, but come on. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I nailed it, guys. But let me know if you disagree or you want to see something else, and we can definitely argue in the comments about that. And hey, I'm looking forward to SummerSlam, I guess. Again, I'll be at Pitch 25 here in Houston, Texas, the biggest party of the summer for the biggest party of the summer at Pitch 25 with the Apollo Houston team. So if you're there, be sure to say what's up, and we'll definitely chop it up while we're there at Pitch 25. And that's this edition. Again, my name's Jarvis Sam, also known as the Wrestling Brother. I don't pop for the moments. I analyze the moments. So I'll catch you next time. Next time, we'll definitely be talking about what happened at SummerSlam. Catch y'all next time.